Hey everyone, this is Scott from Norebbo.com, and today I'm going to draw a Sun Country Airlines Tide Pod livery, or I'm going to attempt to illustrate it. This is the 2018 livery for Sun Country Airlines, and I know this isn't a very popular airline around the world. A lot of people don't really know much about this airline, but their liveries have been very interesting, and some have been very bad, some have been very good. And their latest version is somewhere right in the middle. It's not bad, but it's also not great. And there are a lot of things that I don't like about it, and that's what I'm going to focus on in this video, starting with this front forward swoop graphic here, which I'm trying to illustrate. As always, I'm using Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. I've got my shapes drawn out. I drew those in Illustrator, and I just imported them into Photoshop. Now, the problem is that I don't necessarily like how evenly spaced the white and the orange is. They carry the same weight, they're roughly the same size, and I tend to like a little bit more variation in my airline livery design. Even though it is wavy and it does have a lot of curve to it, I think it's just a little bit too symmetrical, and I would have liked to see a little bit more variation in the sizes of those two elements. One good thing, I guess, is how the blue comes down from the vertical stabilizer into the fuselage of the aircraft and then goes right down underneath the wing box and the engines there. I think that's nice. I just would have liked to see a little bit more spacing between or variation in size between the white and the orange. Another thing that I don't really care for is how they stopped the orange just as it was going up into the vertical stabilizer. I think if they would have continued that right along the front edge or the leading edge of the vertical stabilizer, that would have been really, really nice. But it just looks a little bit awkward and somewhat unfinished the way that they just ended it right there at the leading edge. So, it's just one of those things. It's like this livery is so close to being good, but yet so far. And there are a lot of other things too that I don't like, which I'll show you in a moment. I'm just adding little details like engine gloss now, because it's got to look good as I'm working on it. Some things I just can't leave alone, and I just have to add in those details as I'm working, just to keep it looking as good as possible as I'm making the tweaks. Okay, so now I've added in the Sun Country titles here. This is all new for this livery. Before they were using thicker block letters, almost like a Futura font or a Helvetica bold. But now it's much thinner. It's much more condensed, which is nice in itself. But the problem is that as you see me here recreating the Sun Country sundial logo, the font or the typeface that they use for this S doesn't match the main titles on the side of the aircraft, and that really irks me. There's just something about this that really bothers me, and I don't know why they couldn't have just replaced this S with something to match, or they should have just matched the S from the typeface that they used for the main titles. I don't get why they kept this old logo and this old design. But it is what it is, and it's one of the things that I really don't like about this livery. The sundial logo itself is really nice. It's definitely, it's iconic. It's very Sun Country. When you see this, it's Sun Country Airlines. It's something that's been part of the brand for many years, and I don't fault them for not changing that portion of it. I think it's a good logo for them. Using a sundial or an icon of a sundial because it is Sun Country Airlines. I think that's perfect. It just really bothers me how they didn't do anything with the S. But again, I'm just looking at it from the outside. I don't know if there's I don't know if they have anything else going on in their corporate branding that prohibits them from making a change as big as that. I don't know. I'm just making assumptions, but as a designer, I'm just saying that they could have made that change with this all-new livery, done it once. It could have gone a long way to help them be really consistent with their brand image, but nope, they just had to continue with what they had before, which is one of the things that makes this livery not as good as it could have been. There's a lot of negative space in this logo, which I really like, because I like how it, you can see the color coming through from underneath, and I think that's something that works really well in airline livery design. You get those transparent elements, or you get those negative spaces, so you can let colors show through. It's just a really easy, simple design element that goes a long way. And yeah, so now that you've seen that the S is not the same font or the same typeface as the Sun Country titles, you'll never unsee that. And I'm very sorry. But yeah, it's something that really bothers me. And, also I think that the Sun Country dial, or that logo, that sundial logo, it's actually a different color slightly than the orange used on the forward section of the fuselage, which makes sense if they're trying to save some money and they don't want to repaint every part of the aircraft. Okay, so now we are moving on to something that I didn't know existed in this livery, and it's actually a textured terrain map graphic in the dark blue section. I never knew it was there. I've seen so many pictures of this livery online. I've seen this livery in person, but I never noticed this terrain map texture on both the winglets and in that dark blue section beneath the vertical stabilizer. I think it's neat, and I don't know why they didn't play this up any more than they did, because it's so subtle, and it must require so much effort to paint that, for something that most people aren't even going to notice. It's like, why did they go through the trouble of doing all this if no one's going to notice? And yeah, there's a lot about this that I don't like. And not only because it's subtle, but because of the fact that it doesn't extend into the vertical stabilizer. Here you can see at the very top of the fuselage, as I'm tracing this, it doesn't extend upward into the vertical stabilizer at all. It just cuts off at the very top, and it's just an unfinished design element, which really irks me as a designer. And, again, I get it. They're probably trying to save money. The vertical stabilizer is a complete carryover from the previous livery. It's less that they had to paint. It saves them money. I get it. But it's just too bad that they didn't at least carry it up somewhat, a little bit, into the vertical stabilizer, just to have that continuation of these graphics and to make it look a little bit more consistent. Another thing that bugs me about this is that it's unnecessary. There's so much going on with this livery. You've got the orange and the blue swoops, and you've got that large, strong sundial graphic element, as well as the large billboard titles. But you don't need this extra little detail, and it's just too much. I'm all for complex livery designs. I mean, the more complex, the better. I'm a designer. I'm guilty of that. I love adding in little details and Easter eggs that a lot of people don't notice. But in the real world, it's probably not something that I would have done for an actual production airline livery. It's just unnecessary. So, okay, we're adding little details here, making some adjustments to the template, getting all the right number of windows in place. You can get this template on my website, by the way, Norebbo.com. There's a link to it in the description below. It's the free JPEG version, low resolution, and I do have PSD files available if you need those. So, yeah, it's a good-looking livery. It's not anything I would consider groundbreaking. It's just one of those things that I think I want to do a design exploration on, just to see if I can take this livery to the next step, just to get all the elements integrating with one another, flowing together better. I think it's close. I think they did a really good job on this. It's probably 70% of the way there. There's a little bit more that needs to be done to get this looking just money. You know what I mean? It's got to be there's just some minor little changes that need to be made. And I don't know, if you want to see me tackle that, if you want to see some design concepts of what it could look like or how it could be fixed, let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. So yeah, that is the Sun Country Airlines livery. I hope you enjoyed this little rant of mine. And thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.